Welcome to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I'm Anke Herman, and I'm your host. I talk to awesome humans, people who do great work for dogs and their people. So come and join us for today's conversation. Hello and welcome, Sonia. I'm very happy to have you here.
Hi, thank you, Anka. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's absolute honor and pleasure. Thank you.
We're going to have some fun here. So let's start out. Let people know where in this lovely world you are. And as always, what's your business with the dogs?
My business is called Best of Behavior, and that's the American spelling of behavior, not the English spelling, even though I am English, but I live in America, in the south suburbs of Chicago. So that's in the Midwest. And yeah, I've been working with dogs professionally for about 25 years now, a long time. And I started my business about 7 years ago after not having my own business for many, many years, and a lot of people asking me why I didn't. But it's such a large undertaking, and I just sort of avoided it for the longest time until I finally, uh, bit the bullet and started Best of Behavior. So we do a lot of behavior work, a lot of aggression and reactivity and all the other labels that we want to say, fear and everything really. And we also do regular training as well, which is how I originally started. I was originally a trainer, and then working for Courteous Canine for Angelica Steinker, went into behavior in the early 2000s. And she was one of my wonderful mentors that I was very lucky to learn from very early on in my career. And yeah, so there we are.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, my first question, like I think you've already sort of touched on it, was like, okay, so wait, how is one a dog trainer without your own business? I didn't even think
Yeah,
that was a thing. You could
yeah,
work
yeah.
for somebody else.
Yep, I worked for other people and some of the corporations along the way as well. Um, which, to be honest, most group classes are not my favorite thing to teach. I really do prefer one-on-one. I love working with the dog in front of me or the dogs in front of me, and sort of narrowing down and focusing. I like group classes. They're just not my favorite thing to teach. I do much prefer just working one-on-one with clients and their dogs, to be honest with you.
Fair enough. I can totally see why. But so that's basically like group classes when you have a company and they offer like puppy classes or whatever. So they will then
Hmm.
hire a trainer to do
Hmm.
these classes. Oh,
Yep.
okay. I was somehow
Yeah.
assumed that dog professionals would always be self-employed. So that's like,
Yeah,
oh, I
no,
hadn't even
no.
thought of that.
Yeah, I think also a lot of companies, though, may hire dog trainers as independent contractors.
Hmm.
And I know that I have an independent contractor that works closely with me, because there's only one of me and I can't be everywhere. I
Yep,
can't
yep, yep.
all the time. But sometimes, they do have employees as well. And some of my friends in the city have employees that have their own facilities and stuff. So yeah, yeah, I think there's lots of different ways, and it was really nice coming into the industry to shadow so many different. I mean, so in my second job when I worked for Angelica, not only did I work and learn from Angelica, but I worked and learned with many of the other trainers. One of them was a dolphin trainer from Busch Gardens. They had their own dolphins at the time, so I would sit and watch him and write notes on how he taught and watching the people and how they reacted and responded to certain things. Obviously, being a dolphin trainer, a lot of it is performative, to be honest with you. That what you see in the shows. So he was amazing at engaging the clients and getting them motivated to do things with their own dogs, and that was inspiring. I kind of wanted to be like him, but I didn't want to be him, if that makes sense. But I certainly took a lot away from that. So
Mm.
yeah, and many of the other trainers that I worked with too. So huge
So,
influences.
yeah, I bet. I mean, it's always I mean, we all learn from other people. Like it's almost
Yeah,
like, I always it reminds me of Bruce Lee. Like, you're gonna study all the masters to kind of form your own way out of it in the end, right? So,
absolutely. Yeah.
so what's one thing that you think, oh God, I wish people knew? From all the clients that people have come to you, the problems they come to you with, what you see, what do you think people like? What do you wish people knew?
The clients or the
Mm.
trainers? The clients. You know, one of my lovely dear clients who's become a friend because I'm terrible. I'm like, I really suck at professional boundaries. When I work closely, when I do, I just think it comes with like having such an empathetic, compassionate, loving, kind sort of heart. I'm terrible at like keeping, especially when I work closely with someone for a long time, often they just become really good friends, and so so one of those, um, she always says to me, the most important thing that you kept telling me at the beginning was it's a marathon, not a sprint. And it was a severe aggression case that she had originally hired me for. He's incredible now. He's come so far. They have as a team, and she always says that. I remember you saying, Sonia, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and just keep one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, no matter how slow you're going. Sometimes you are running fast, sometimes you're hobbling along, and that's okay. It's just keep your eye forward,
Yeah.
and keep moving.
I love
So
that. I
maybe
love
that.
that. Because I think a lot of the time, people look for the quick fix, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I just want my dog to stop doing. Is it mostly? I think it's
Right.
mostly getting the dog to stop something, right? So it's not so much I wish my dog did that. It's like I wish my
Hmm.
dog didn't do
Right.
something.
Right. Right.
Mm,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And just, having patience and just trying to find that compassion for yourself as the human and your dynamic and your struggle, but also for the animal that I know we always say everybody knows this, that they're having a hard time. They're not just giving you a hard time. And it's so true though. And just being able to step back and create some space emotionally to just sort of reflect and have some compassion for yourself and the difficulty that that human's feeling and the frustration and anger and all those other feelings. And that's okay. And they're allowed to have those feelings, and the dog obviously has theirs. And just to try to just pour compassion upon that is so important, and allowing the client to have permission, to feel those and not feel like ashamed, you know.
yeah.
I think that's really
I mean, the shame is a big part of it, right? Especially when your dog is, I mean, I would imagine with aggression, it's
hmm
probably, but it also limits your life when you can't go anywhere, right? I remember
right.
I hosted an event once, and in the chats on, like, when people asked, like, when asked what was their issue, there were people going like, "Oh, I just wish I could have my son over for for Thanksgiving."
Yeah.
Like the dog won't let anybody. Like it's like, oh my God, it sounds kind of funny and extreme, but put yourself into the shoes of that family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's ooh. So and they
It
will then
is.
go and say, hey, I want somebody to just fix it. Right. So how
Right.
do you get people to have patience when they already kind of at the end of their rope?
Well, I'll often use just human analogies. We don't go to the psychiatrist one time and miraculously walk away fixed. It just doesn't, or the therapist, and you don't see a therapist one or two times usually, and everything's smashed, especially if you have a history of trauma.
Yeah.
And so there are so many people with the awareness that we have with mental health these days. Um, People are seeing therapists or have seen therapists or continuing to see therapists or multiple sometimes. And so I think when we talk and we sort of help them understand, and believe it or not, I mean, there's quite a few people that are on psychopharmacology themselves, and they'll laugh and they'll be like, oh, everybody in the family is. And then it's like, if that's what we're discussing, for example. Um, but also just to know that they don't get magically fixed by a therapist one or two times, that it is a process. And it's going to be up and down, and to have, try to have patience and try to identify how we can help them have some of their normality back through management. I think management, is usually more of a temporary thing, and temporary might be a month, temporary might be 2 years. I mean, that's not on our time frame necessarily. That's on the dogs and the issues and everything else and the goals if they're accessible. So I think, addressing all of that kind of stuff and allowing them to understand that it is a process, and we're going to try to do as much as we can, but to try to have patience.
Mm, yeah. Do you find there's like when there's families, like I mean, like what in my observation, like the people who come to trainers and with that patient mind tend to be women. Am I right there? Or is it like, do you find that it's like in families that there's like one who goes like, I just need this fixed now, and one is happy to kind of go the path, but then there's pressure from the other side to say, well, hey, if you don't get this fixed by whatever.
Um, I think probably yes. In my experience, it's usually been men that have been more wanting the immediate quick fix. But to be honest, as I think about the last few years with all of my clients, and maybe I'm just really lucky in that I just, the people that seek me out are those really patient people, um, that are wanting to do the work, the hard work, the deep work, So, and to be fair, I mean, most of the male clients that either come by themselves or come in a family unit or a couple unit, are really, really wonderful, to be honest with you. I'm really blessed. So I'm lucky. I love my clients.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because I've just literally had a conversation with a colleague early on, and we were sort of like, well, actually, you know, as beautiful as it is to help dogs, right? I
Mhm.
felt it's like, oh, I think I'd get frustrated, when you get people in the middle that don't
Mhm.
see that, hey, don't you see your dog's kind of like, so, but I mean, that's fortunate that you've got, whatever you put out pulls in the
Mhm.
right people. So do you work like online only or like offline only, or like do you do a bit of both?
I do a bit of both. The majority is in person. But I do also work with cats. So some of my clients are usually across the US, that I have cat mainly intra-household aggression, or people aggression. Um, and then of course, I do have some, I don't really put out, I guess I don't really advertise that I do a lot of online. And to be honest, mainly because I am driving all around God's creation. So it's very difficult for me to sit and do virtual, to be honest with you. Because I'm out, I work like 6 days a week, often seven. And I know you've Um, so yeah, terrible work-life balance. But so yeah, I'm as I move forward more to working, doing like my niche, which is my passion at the moment for the last 5+ years, 6, 7 years, then maybe I will do a lot more virtual. So yeah, but I'm open to doing virtual. I like virtual too.
I was just like, I mean, this is a dog show, so I'm not going to go too far into the cats, but I don't think I've ever heard anybody getting, hiring somebody to kind of, hey, my dogs kind of, my two cats go at each other. Like, I've not
Oh
even,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've never had a cat, so at least, yeah, no, only
Oh.
just, I looked after one for a little while. Like, she was very cute. It's called Kamikaze because
Oh,
he's thrown
kamikaze.
himself off a wall as a tiny little kitten. It's very
I
cute.
love that. Yeah, I
Um,
get I actually get a lot of referrals from our veterinary behaviorist up in the city, Dr. Kelly Ballantyne, and her group Insight. So shout out to them. And then yeah, and then a lot through the website and just referrals. So Mhm.
I just didn't realize that was a thing. It's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, my cat has a go at me. Like that's a good one. Now the other thing I want to kind of dig in, you just sort of threw in there. It's like, well, I'm going to focus more on my niche, my real passion. Tell us about that.
Okay. So for the last sort of, well, 7 and a bit years ago, I adopted Kismet. That's one of my dogs, and and I had actually 6 months prior lost my border collie, who was my heart dog, and I was heartbroken, and I had no dogs, and I was volunteering at the local humane society at the time, and so. And doing a lot of hours there, actually, just voluntary. Um, and so I would go in and I would clean and just, get mucky, just do all the hard stuff that no one really wanted to do. And nobody actually even knew that I was a trainer. I didn't go in there saying, like, I'm a trainer. I didn't tell anyone. I just went in and cleaned and took dogs for walks and played with them and took care of the cats and stuff and just did the work, that needed to be done. And a transport came up from the south, and I was, after the cleaning, I was taking all the dogs out individually for walks and just outside time. And and I took this very quiet dog out. He was about 8 months old at the time, a mixed breed, and we went for a little walk, and he made me laugh, and I kind of felt a little bit of my heart sort of glue back together, and I was like, that's interesting. So I put him on hold and I brought my family the next day and we ended up taking him home. But I will say, having lost, three dogs in the previous, all due to old age, sort of 5 years, and then finishing with Coop it was hard. And I don't know, if I don't know when I don't know how we ever assess we're ready for another dog. Um, and I took him home and I liked him a lot. Um, and then I found out some stuff that made it more challenging to like him, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But I'd say it probably took me a good year and a half, maybe even 2 years to like really feel the love for him. And I love the very bones of him now. I love him to pieces, but it was a process. Healing that loss was hard. So, yeah, I know that's a tangent.
No, but it's like it's so true though. It's such a, I mean, that's a situation I've lost too, but I've always
Mm,
had other dogs. Like there was always at least, no, there was always two other dogs there, So and
mhm.
I sometimes thought like I don't even want to think about what it would be like for the
Yeah,
last dog to go, right? It's just like,
yeah,
ooh,
it was
so I
hard.
can totally feel
Yeah.
that it's yeah.
Yeah. And I had had children in that time frame. So I had two very young children and was very busy with them, as well. And so yeah, so it was a change. But so the thing that made it a little bit more challenging to like him, they didn't really do, I don't think, I'm not sure what they do now, but they didn't really do any kind of assessments really in the shelter. So when I got him home within the next week or two, I discovered that he was prolific resource guarder, and he would steal things, and he was like Cujo, um, the 1980s film version of Cujo. And he would, steal whatever, run to his kennel, and then he was all teeth, slashing teeth, and it was like, oh, great. And remember, I had two very young children at the time, and I was like,
We have a problem.
so, yes, Houston, we have a problem. And but the thing was, it was very, very difficult to predict what he would steal because he would just steal items, especially if he could counter surf and steal food items, high value, like human cookies or something. And of course, having young children, though, 5-year-olds aren't very good at putting things necessarily away and stuff. So, and 2-year-olds. So it was very difficult. And he made me grow and stretch and create. So he is
So
a
what did you
wonderful
create?
teacher.
I mean, I
So
think dogs are the best teachers,
the best.
especially the
Yeah,
difficult ones, the
yes.
difficult dog, right? It's the one
Absolutely.
that questions everything you thought you
Hmm.
knew. Like
Or
they are the ones
challenges,
who, yeah,
challenges
yeah,
everything you thought you knew
yeah.
about dogs or training or anything like that. And it's like, okay, that was the thing is I'm holding my wonderful copy of Mine by Jean Donaldson, and I'm like, how do I do this with everything in the house? This dog will steal anything and everything and then guard the ever-loving crud out of it. How can I desensitize and counter condition everything in the house? You can't. You can't. And and it wasn't constant, so I had to identify when and the context, and it really stretched me and grew me, and I kind of developed some techniques and protocols, and then I had another dog 5 years ago that came for a board and train for severe resource guarding, and I was like, okay. And so he grew that even more. And then over the last 5 years, I've just been like, okay, there is a need for, not just my dog, but many other dogs that have this, these kinds of resource guarding patterns that aren't predictable. But even when they are predictable, what else is there? What else can we do other than desensitization and counter conditioning? And why? Why would we want to do this? How is it helpful? Those are the questions I just started asking. I'm a question person. I always want to know, well, why? Why and how? And so yeah, so that's what I kind of developed.
Mm. That's so interesting because I'm just like laughing like little Leo. He wasn't unpredictable. He was very predictable. I called him sometimes
Mm.
Imelda Marcos because he loved leather shoes and
Shoes.
socks. Like literally, like he once ate a client's socks. We laughed about this
Ooh,
like later. These little, these little pantyhose, little kind of
yeah,
socklet kind of
stretchy.
thingies. Yeah,
Hmm.
while she was trying on her dress, like he was just go, and then he would go when you come and oh my God, and then he'd swallow it so you wouldn't take it away
Yes.
from him, right? So and that was
Yeah.
always like I would then always have to trade it for something that, he
Yes.
liked better. Because if
Yes.
I came and if he got the sense that I was trying to take it away from him, he'd swallow and he'd swallow
Right.
anything, right? So that was
Right.
like have to be really careful with that. But when he
Yeah.
trained me well to keep socks and shoes in their place, but I
Right.
don't even know what you do if it's with everything. So what, like from everything you've kind of investigated around this, um, what do you think it's at the source of it? Like, why do dogs do that?
Ooh, well, it depends. Sound like a
Mhm.
trainer. It depends. I would say a lot of it is insecurities, um, insecure attachments, in food insecurity, obviously, object insecurity can be, but yeah, a lot of insecurities, um, unknown, they're not quite sure what to predict. Interestingly, the last dog that I had for board and train had had the predicting sort of occurrence of trading was now poisoned. So if you tried to come in and trade, he would get even more aggressive. So even trading has to be done very carefully. And we think
Oh,
it's kind of foolproof, right? I have something really good, better than you have, give it to me. But if it's not done correctly or with a certain type of dog, we can
mm,
poison that. So that actually became a cue for him to become even more upset and have bigger
yeah.
feelings and guard even um and be more proactively aggressive. So it was, yeah, he's a very interesting case.
So
And
how do you go about starting to break that pattern or to ease that? Like, where do you start? Like, what do you do?
so I think that dogs need to go sort of through, like with anything that we're working, they need to go through like a decompression
Mm,
period. Um, and and if we can, we need to kind of go through an item deprivation period of that object while we build up other skills. So if we can build up, um, more sort of operant protocols, but it's not just about operant behaviors, it's about the emotions that we can create. So Kismet's singing to me now. Yes, I know you're the famous dog that started all of this. Because they have a pretty pessimistic outlook around when they have an object. And sometimes it can be to provoke attention or something. He sounds like a yodeling dog, doesn't he? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. And chronic stress as well needs to be identified if there's a source of chronic stress, or and that needs to be decreased. And obviously, pain or medical issues, always have to be addressed. If there's an issue around food and stuff, and obviously we know that with resource guarding that they often have touch sensitivity, which is obviously sometimes linked with trauma or physical malady, that there's an issue. So that's kind of where we start. He wants to come out. Give me 1 second.
Come on, come on. We want to see that little artist.
And oftentimes there's relationship challenges, insecure attachment challenges, or maybe they've attached to something else. That's a whole other thing, though. But can still be a part of it. But yeah, so we want to look at the relationship and the quality of the relationship, which oftentimes isn't always wonderful because of the issue, and it just kind of spirals and increases. So sometimes it's good to have decompression away from each other. I posted recently on my Facebook about doing like board and trains, because most people, whenever I see people asking about board and trains for resource guarding, people usually are like, oh, absolutely not. You mustn't do board and trains for resource guarding. And it's like, if you have the skill set and are able to, it can actually really help not only the dog, but it can really help the owners as well, or the guardians. So it was just sort of an invitation for people to sort of look at it a different way and consider the positives and how everybody can benefit. So yeah, so that's kind of, but
so that means if somebody if my dog just won't give the socks back, then I mean, I guess what makes sense to me is that if my dog then stays with you for a while, then it's almost like it's a different environment. Like everything's kind of reset, right? It's so much harder to do that if we're in our typical little rhythm that we have.
Right. Yeah. And as we know, the environment cues behaviors, and that's the inner environment of the dog as well as the outer environment. Those are huge. And also behavior. So like I just said, assessing a dog to how are you? If I come in with a potential trade as an environmental cue, right? I am part of the environment. How does he respond, or how does she respond? So we can change the environment. It doesn't usually give them an immediate like clean slate, obviously. Sometimes you'll see it straight off the bat anyway. They're like, I'm so good at this, let me show you. And then sometimes, it will take some time. But it is incredible how even in my home, because I do board and train in my home, how similar environments can still predict behavior, even though they're not the exact environment. It's very, very interesting. Very interesting.
So what's the best case scenario? Is that something that a dog can overcome? Or, I mean, I actually thought with Leo, I remember there was one, and it was around autumn or something, where I thought, look, I think Leo doesn't do that anymore. I can't remember the last time he's stolen anything. And literally the next day I had some washing hanging and off he went. I was like, Oh, that was just because for the last 5 months it's been warm here. We've not worn any socks, right?
Right,
So,
right.
so, so it wasn't like he was still like given the opportunity, he would take it, right?
Hmm.
So in your experience, is that something that you learn to live with, or is that something that a dog can let go of, or what's like a best case scenario outcome?
So I think they're never fixed or cured. I really, it's very few, depending on the severity as well, and depending on the source, of the behavior, the root causes, and depending on the dog. There's such individuals, but I always kind of call them recovering um, resource guardians. They're in recovery, just like just like many other challenges that humans have, where they might be in a recovery program, and it is a constant. A constant daily sort of work. And I kind of find that a lot of them are like that, to be honest with you. I'm never sort of like, well, they're cured now. I think it's a process, and hopefully, as we've created protocols and we've developed more and more trust, because trust is a huge, huge, important part of this work, is building trust, building predictability, and so that they can say, I know what we're doing now, and I opt in. And so that trust and that relationship building is critical. So oftentimes I'll hear from people, oh, but I don't want them, picking up an item and coming to me and saying, can I have a cookie, and swapping it. And I'm like, why? That's so much better than potentially being bitten. And
Yeah.
when I often see these dogs, they are 4, 5, 6, 7 bites in and they're getting worse. And so I'm like, so what if you give them a cookie because they brought you a shoe? To me, that's brilliant. I
Yeah.
want that. I want them to say, hey, look what I've got. Can I have a cookie? Absolutely, you can have a cookie. I'm happy to give you a cookie and keep our relationship good, as opposed to going all the way back to stealing and then guarding and biting. It's like, why would I think that's a problem? I don't. For resource guarding.
Yeah.
To me, that's wonderful. That's like, hey, I bring in my little token. Can I get a goodie? Absolutely, you can get a goodie, as opposed to, no, you can't have it, and
Yeah.
I will bite you if you come near me. Kismet does that. He'll occasionally, well, he brings me shoes. One, to say I need to go outside to go potty, or two,
Oh,
just because he wants interaction, or three, because he he uh he'd like a cookie, and it's fine. You know what I mean? I'd much prefer that
for
than the
sure.
dog that I lived with 7 years ago and
Yeah.
6 years ago.
God,
So
yeah. Actually, it
yeah.
reminds me, I was in an Airbnb once and they had a hunting dogs, like a Breton or something like that, and he was super cute. And he would come like on the last day, I was having breakfast and there he was like this, and he had like he'd stolen the sock from the washing basket and he was bringing it to me. So
It seems
I
to be a
still
theme
have,
here, Anka. Do you have like really lovely smelling feet or
but that
something
they
that the
weren't
dogs
my
enjoy?
socks. That wasn't my socks. Like
I'm like, maybe you have just delicious feet, Anka.
I know but he stole his own people's socks. Like that wasn't,
Oh, and
he just
brought it to
brought it to me,
you.
which
Oh,
was
how
like really sweet. And then
sweet.
he'd go like, with his paw up, and I still have that
Yeah.
photo. It was really cute.
Oh, that
So where
is
can
cute.
people go and find out more about you and contact you if they want their shoes back?
Yeah, right. Oh, they're living with a Cujo. So I'm on Facebook as, Sonia Fetherling, and I'm more active on there than my own business page, failing, of Best of Behavior. I am on Instagram and I'm trying to be more active on there. It's just, busy, busy, right? Um, I am hopefully working on a book. So I will get that together. And I have a few presentations coming up in 2026. I'll be presenting at the MET conference, the online MET conference, and then also at the Canis conference in October 2026. So in Schaumburg, which is just outside of Chicago. So those will be two places where I'll be able to be presenting more of my work, so you can see it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, when the book's out, I shall definitely invite you back. I want to know
Thank
all about
you.
that. So thank you so much. And yeah, absolutely delightful. And yeah, I think
Oh.
there's a lot. I mean, just sort of thinking, even the dog, friend of mine, like, yeah, he's kind of, and he gets in trouble with the other dogs because he'll get kind of nervous when somebody walks passing that somebody might take his toy and stuff, like, so, and it causes
Mm.
tension. So it's a real thing. Like
Mm.
it's not a, it's yeah. And it's definitely,
It is stressful.
it's
It is
stressful
very
for everyone
stressful.
involved, right?
Hmm.
The dogs and the people and the other
Yeah,
dogs in the house. And
yeah,
so, yeah, definitely.
absolutely.
Well,
And well, thank you very much, Anka, for having me
well,
on it. It's
thank
been an
you.
absolute pleasure, and I
Well,
hope
thank you. And we'll pop the link below, the video and the audio, wherever you're watching it, and go check her out. And I look forward to having you back.
oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. If you haven't already, head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for weekly doggy cuteness, tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, @soultouchedbydogs.com.